Ayo and ho ho ho. Welcome back, everybody. As you can see, it's just me today. I'll get into why in a minute. But happy holidays. It's everyone's favorite time of year, the fantasy playoffs. If you've made it this far and you're watching this, congratulations. Nick will obviously not be joining me today for a couple reasons. The predominant one being it's finals in college, so he's preparing for his exams, as always, school first. Also, I think he's still a little salty because his last regular season matchup was to me. Sorry, Nick. I beat him, and one of the ramifications for that loss was he got knocked out of playoffs. So we had a very competitive regular season this year, so that's not on him. He had some things break the wrong way, like the Zeke suspension, Jordan Reed's health all year. So, but yeah, so it's just me today. As usual, I'm cooking because bulking. So, anyways, this is the first week of the regular season, and I guess I should start off with a couple things about the Thursday game. If you had Michael Thomas, you're thrilled. Unfortunately, Alvin Kamara suffered a concussion in the first drive of the game, so hopefully you either benched him, highly unlikely, but hopefully you did, or you have a bye. Congrats, Anton, on that, by the way. So, if you played him or Matt Ryan, who threw 3 picks and just looked pretty terrible out there, then you're fighting an uphill battle. And my best piece of advice would be play the boom or bust, high risk, high reward players if you have them. Maybe like a Deshaun Jackson or someone. Because you are now playing the most hated game in fantasy, catch up. So, Devontae Freeman looked pretty good. Not many targets, but he had a solid game. So, and Drew Brees did what he's pretty much done all year for your team. Atlanta won the game. And yeah, so you know what you have, what you played, what you didn't, and what you need. But I think Kamara will be fine for next week because he does have the extra rest. He played on Thursday, so he should hopefully be back for next week. Time will tell, though, so monitor that. If you have Patriots running backs, you're starting them. Actually, if you have any Patriots, you're probably starting them. Gronk is suspended this game, but Chris Hogan is back. So let's say he should take about as many targets as Gronk would have been getting. One thing to just take note of, next week will be the first week, excluding Julian Edelman, that the Patriots will really have everybody. You know, Burkhead missed significant time. Dion Lewis worked his way into his prominent role. You know, Gronk will be back next week. Hogan has been out for a handful of games. Amendola's back. So next week, excluding Edelman, Brady will have all his weapons. So if you have Brady, you're thrilled about that. If you have everyone else, you're still probably starting them. But you're a little more hesitant just because there will be less targets and carries to go around for everybody. But yeah, you're still starting them next week. If you're a Russell Wilson owner, like myself, you have a very tough matchup this week on the road at Jacksonville. Russell Wilson's line is 23rd in pass protection, so expect a lot of scrambling from him. The way I see it, depending on your scoring, Russell Williams been either number 1 through top 3 quarterback. And same ranking-wise for Jacksonville defense. I say you have to start him. He's gotten you this far. If you have him, unless you have a very, very high-end backup, I'd go with starting Russell Wilson. One thing to consider, when Mariota versed Jacksonville a while back, they looked pretty exposed to mobile quarterbacks. So if anyone could do it, I'd say it's the MVP candidate, Russell Wilson. As for Baldwin, Graham, all of them, I'd start Jimmy Graham, Doug Baldwin. It depends what else you have. But yeah, that's what I would do. I wouldn't shy away from the matchup because he's been too good all year to get benched at this point. Josh Gordon looked really, really good in his first week back in, I think, about 3 years. And he has a much easier matchup next week. So while you're not overly confident in any Cleveland quarterback, I'd say it's something to put serious thought into, starting Josh Gordon, because he can be a difference maker at this point in the season. Corey Coleman, I wouldn't play him. Rookie last week, wasn't heavily involved, didn't really perform. They're going to want to feature Josh Gordon, I think. So there you go with that. Let's see, Zach Ertz, you're monitoring if he's going to play or not in Philly. And actually, I think it's Battle of the Sophomores this week, Goff versus Wentz, which is a tough matchup for both of them, but same thing with the Russell Wilson thing. I feel like you have to start either of them. But yeah, that should be an exciting game, and we'll see which sophomore is better. So, I guess let's touch on the Minnesota-Carolina game. Thielen must start. He's been great all year. Diggs has been sort of up and down, so that depends on what else you have. But I think I would start him. You've been able to throw on Carolina recently, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Actually, it is broke, in a way. Their defense. Sorry, that was a pretty bad joke. Anyways, if you have Diggs, I would start him. On the Carolina side, it's a very, very tough matchup against Minnesota. I have McCaffrey, and I'm sitting here debating McCaffrey or Kareem Hunt, so that's a headache and a half. Personally, I don't think you could start Kareem Hunt. I know he's getting a high percentage of the snaps, but he's just not getting the carries recently. So, of those two, I think I'm leaning towards McCaffrey, because despite Minnesota's tough run defense, he'll still be used in the passing game, so he should still hit close to value. So, Kareem Hunt, again, depends what you have. I'm benching him this week, but that's because Damian Williams is out, and I have Kenyon Drake, who dominated last week, and Samaje Perine, who should get all the carries. Since the Chargers' D, which has been great recently, has shown weakness against the run, fire him up with confidence. But the Chargers have been absolutely surging, making a very impressive playoff push. So if you have Keenan Allen, who's surpassed 10 catches and over 100 yards with at least one score in each of the last 3 weeks, you're starting him, absolutely. And Hunter Henry has been heavily involved in the offense as well, so fire him up. Phillip Rivers has been playing some great football, so for most of you, he's probably been your backup, but depending on the matchup, you might want to give serious consideration into starting Rivers. Let's see. I guess let's touch on Pittsburgh, because Juju Smith-Schuster will not be playing this week. I don't think Martavis Bryant is a viable fill-in, just because I know he's been used more in the last couple weeks, but he's hit nowhere near value, because he was a mid-draft pick for most people, and he's been dropped in a significant amount of leagues just because he hasn't been utilized. He hasn't been getting touchdowns and yards, and at this point in the playoffs, you really don't want to bank on his hopefully increased volume. But there's a good chance Juju's targets will all go to Bell and Brown, like most of last week. But Ben has looked great. If you have Ben Roethlisberger on your team, same thing with the Phillip Rivers situation, you should consider starting him. He's looked a lot better since Pittsburgh's bye, and since most of his remaining games are home, he's a good person to have for the remainder of the year, I think. Sorry, I'm toasting my buns, so I'll be back and forth. The burgers are probably rare right now, but This is only going to be another 3 or 4 minutes because I'm doing it from my phone. And to get it right from my phone to YouTube, there's like a 15-minute cap. So, and going off the top of the dome without Nick isn't the easiest of things. I miss having my partner here in the weeks when he's absent. Hold on 1 second. That's hot. The buttons. Anyways, Eli will be starting for the Giants, and I think he's going to be gunslinging this week. Just because he's upset, heartbroken about the benching last week. But with the firings and his reinstallment into the starting position, I think he's coming out with a vengeance. I wouldn't start Eli, but I would start Shepard and Ingram this week because of it. I think possibly both of them will have a touchdown. So if you have them, again, that's just a hunch. As a Giants fan who watches every game he can, they're not all televised down here in Jacksonville. But as a Giants fan who watches every game up until this year, I think Eli's going to go for about 250 to 300 yards, multiple touchdowns, and it's very possible they each have one. So that's what I would do. Let me see. Sorry, got a snap. Jameis Winston came back last week. Didn't look great, but you can see the difference for Cameron Brate between when Winston played and when Fitzpatrick played. So if you held on to Cameron Brate, or if someone dropped him and you went out and grabbed him, he's been a top 5 tight end on the season every game Jameis Winston has played. So I would start him unless you have Travis Kelce, Hunter Henry, or if Zach Ertz played. Other than that, I think I'd fire Cameron Brate up. And I know you don't feel great about it with Winston there and the way Tampa's offense has been for the most part of the year, but Cameron Brate has done it consistently given in similar circumstances. So that's my opinion on that. And let's see. I don't think Robert Woods is playing this week. I wouldn't fire up Cooper Kupp because he just hasn't been getting in the end zone. But if you have Sammy Watkins, I think I'd consider that. Pretty sure he had the touchdown last week, was more involved the week before. So I think I would play him if you have any of the Rams pass catchers. He'd be my favorite to get in the end zone or be used in a big way this week. And let's see. Dak's been sort of underperforming ever since the Zeke suspension, so I might consider benching him if he's your quarterback, but as always, depends what else you have. There are a handful of good streaming options this week, though, so that might be worth going out and taking a look. This is splattering a lot. Hit my arm a little. And let's see. Who else to touch on? I guess the Colts we could talk about. Don't start any of them. Don't start any of them except for maybe Jack Doyle. Because T.Y. has been the definition of boomer bust. And maybe if you have T.Y. and Matt Ryan, you throw them in and hope for a 40 spot. But other than a desperation play, I would bench any and all Colts this week because you just can't trust any of them except for, as mentioned, possibly Jack Doyle. So, anyways, I'm going to end this and upload it because it is Saturday. Best of luck to all of you. And next week, hopefully Nick will be back, but I'll throw something up regardless. Good luck in week 13 and hope to see you in the semis.